Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Happy Thursday to everybody out there. And I heard on the radio, I want to say it was last Friday, but it may have been Monday, that right now we're in the midst of the stretch of the year that happens every year where there's 57 consecutive days of at least one football game, because this is the time of the year where in college football a lot of the group of five conferences like the MAC and Conference USA and the Sun Belt play games on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, because it's really, honestly, truly the only time that they can be on TV to showcase their conference and to showcase their teams. Because when they play on Saturdays, unless one of their teams is playing a school out of a Power 5 conference, they're not going to be on TV. So therefore, people know nothing about the conference and nothing about the teams. So I figured, since we're in the midst of that stretch, today here on the channel we talk about week number 8 in the world of college football. Hard to believe we're already past the halfway point of the regular season. Tuesday night we had 3 games. Liberty defeated Middle Tennessee State 42-35. And for those of you that do not know, Liberty is in Lynchburg, Virginia. And I bring that up for a brief conversation. They're coached by Jamey Chadwell. Now, it's Jamey Chadwell's first year at Liberty. He left Coastal Carolina to go to Liberty. He was very successful at Coastal. Before Coastal, he coached at North Greenville, which I believe is a Division III school, maybe Division II. But anyway, it's a small school, and he was very successful at North Greenville. So since he's now coaching at Liberty, and it's his first year there, and it's in Lynchburg, Virginia, people are thinking that Jamey Chadwell will be the next head coach at Virginia or Virginia Tech. Now, Virginia Tech is actually showing improvement, significant improvement under Brent Pry. So I don't think they're making a head coaching change. Now, Virginia, they're terrible, but I believe, since they've been terrible for quite a while, that they'll give Tony Elliott one more year. And if he doesn't show some improvement next year, it might be his last year. But you have to wonder, eventually, if Jamey Chadwell doesn't get offered a job at a big time school, there has to be a reason. If you follow the channel, you know that back when South Carolina hired Shane Beamer, I said it's a terrible hire. Now, of course, he's still there, so we don't know yet whether or not I was right. But I said it's a bad hire because look at how many years Shane Beamer coached as an assistant head coach somewhere. But look at how many years he coached under his own father, and his own daddy would not let him call plays. And when your own father won't let you call plays, there's a reason. To me, if all these big time programs keep skipping over Jamey Chadwell, as successful as he is, there's a reason. Jacksonville State defeated Western Kentucky 20-17. And speaking of head coaches, Jacksonville State is coached by Rich Rodriguez, but they're 6-2 this year. They've got a chance to have a 8, maybe a 9 win season. If Rich Rod stays there a couple of more years and keeps having 8, 9, 10 win seasons, you can darn well bet he's going to leave for a better job somewhere. South Alabama defeated Southern Miss Tuesday night, double nickel to 3. Now, last night there was a couple of games, but if you watch the channel, you know that I try my best not to talk about the games from the night before. And I do that on purpose. especially during the week, because not everybody works the same hours. Not everybody works the same days. And a lot of people get up in the morning time and the first thing they do is watch my video. And I greatly appreciate that. But I don't want you to watch my video and hear the score of the game and then say, well, I'm not going to watch the game. I heard the score. So I'd rather you watch the game. And I do know people that have personally told me that they watch their team, whoever their team is, live. And if they miss the game, they don't record it. Because if they record it, but they find out the score, once they find out the score, they don't watch. Now, I don't understand that because I miss most of Clemson's games live because of wrestling, but I watch every one of them later on. Whether they win or lose, I watch it. Whether I know ahead of time whether they won or lost, I watch it. If you come to me and tell me Clemson won 31-20, I want to watch it. I want to know how they get that 31. Was it passing touchdowns? Was it rushing touchdowns? Was it both? Was there a defensive touchdown? Was there a touchdown on special teams? I want to know. And you don't know unless you watch. Tonight, we have two games. 7 o'clock, ESPN 2. Rice and Tulsa. And also 7 o'clock, ESPN, James Madison and Marshall. And somebody please make the James Madison situation make sense to me. James Madison is brand new to the FBS level, but they might already be the best team in their conference. As a matter of fact, they probably are. James Madison is probably a top 20 football team, but of course, nobody's going to talk about them because they're James Madison. But because they're brand new to the FBS level, the NCAA is punishing them by not letting them play in any kind of major bowl game because they're brand new to the FBS level. But the NCAA is the one that made them move up from FCS because, for one, they were dominating FCS. For two, their schools got too big. So the NCAA goes to them and tells them that they must move up to FBS, and then they do it, and then they're punished so they can't play in a bowl game. That makes no sense whatsoever to me. If James Madison went to them and asked to move up, I would kind of understand it. But when you're told to move up and then told, oh, you move up, you can't play in a bowl game, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Tomorrow night, ESPN 2, we have SMU at Temple. Then coming up on Saturday, the noon slate ain't bad, but I can go ahead and tell you that almost all the eyeballs at noon are going to be on one game, even though there's some pretty good games at noon. Fox, Saturday, noontime is probably the game that everybody's going to watch. Penn State at Ohio State. Two teams with playoff aspirations, two teams with national championship aspirations, two top 10 teams playing each other, and the big noon kickoff on Fox. Penn State at Ohio State. Ohio State probably has a slight edge because they're the home team, but it's not much. Central Florida at Oklahoma on ABC. Air Force at Navy on CBS. The Bulldogs of Mississippi State take on Arkansas at noon. That game's on ESPN. On the Big Ten Network, we have Rutgers at Indiana. The ACC Network, Boston College at Georgia Tech. ESPN 2, Memphis at UAB. And the CBS Sports Network noon game is Western Michigan at Ohio. Then at 3:30, there's a couple of really good games. We have Washington State at Oregon on ABC, and Tennessee at Alabama on CBS. Can Tennessee somehow beat Alabama for the second straight year? The SEC Network, At 3:30, we have the Battle of the Columbias as the Columbia, South Carolina Gamecocks travel to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Tigers. ESPN2 at 3:30, North Texas at Tulane. Minnesota at Iowa is the noon game on NBC. Wisconsin at Illinois on Fox Sports 1. Northwestern at Nebraska on the Big Ten Network. South Florida at UConn on the CBS Sports Network. Pittsburgh at Wake Forest on the ACC Network. And Oklahoma State at West Virginia on ESPN. That is the 3:30 slate for Saturday. So a couple of good games at noon, even though I think everybody's going to watch Penn State at Ohio State. But 3:30 is probably going to be split with Oregon facing Washington State and Tennessee facing Alabama. And then at 4 o'clock, we have Texas at Houston on Fox, and Toledo at Miami of Ohio on ESPN. 6:30 on the CW, we have Virginia at North Carolina. And if you have not been following what the CW is doing, the CW is going to slowly, eventually become the new ESPN. Maybe it won't turn into a propaganda channel like ESPN. I'm not sure if they're going to carry any actual sports shows, but I know as far as sports goes, they're carrying college football, they're fixing to carry basketball, they're also going to carry NASCAR, and they're also fixing to start carrying NWA wrestling. So the CW is slowly turning into a sports channel. 7 o'clock Saturday night, we have Ole Miss at Auburn on ESPN. Texas Tech at BYU on Fox Sports 1. TCU at Kansas State on ESPN 2. And Utah State at San Jose State on the CBS Sports Network. 7:30, we have a game that would be considered a great rivalry game. It's still going to be called a great rivalry game, even though it's not going to be close Saturday, I don't believe. But 7:30 on NBC, we have Michigan at Michigan State. And right now, Michigan is firing on all cylinders, and Michigan State looks lost under their interim head coach. ABC at 7:30, we have Duke at Florida State. And do not be surprised if that is a fourth quarter game with Duke having a chance to pull off the upset. 7:30 on the SEC network is Army at LSU. Then at 8 o'clock Saturday night on Fox, we have Utah at USC. Clemson at Miami on the ACC network. And Georgia State at Louisiana on ESPN. And I got a kick out of the Clemson fans earlier in the week because so many people get so offended by everything that honestly I feel sorry for head coaches nowadays, because if you give people the generic robotic answers, they get mad. But if you actually give people an honest opinion, they get butthurt. And everybody knows that Dabo Swinney has always been very open, very honest, very brash. And personally, that's why I like him so much. But earlier in the week at his press conference, and he actually said it tongue-in-cheek. He was not being serious. But he said that Clemson needs to lose more games to get rid of their bandwagon fans. And so many people got butthurt about it. But even though it was tongue-in-cheek, I thought it was funny. But if he was being serious about it, I'd still find it funny, because if you call yourself a Clemson fan and you're mad about that comment, then you're the person he's talking to. because he said that 98.5% of Clemson fans are great. The other 1.5% are the ones he wants to get rid of. And I get that because those are the fans that every fan base has, that they're just never happy no matter what you do. It's not good enough. Dabo put out a slogan about a decade ago called "Best is the Standard." And so many people take that to heart and think that he's talking about only football and talking about wins and losses. And that's not what he's talking about. That slogan, that saying, is talking about people, turning people into the best people and the best person they can be. That's what it's talking about, but so many people think he's talking about just wins and losses, so they're all upset about it. But every fan base has those fans, and you've got fans now that think you're supposed to win every game you play. And I don't care how many national championships you win, you're not going to win every game you play. There's never in the history of time been a team that's never lost a game. But people think that. But believe me, I know there are some bandwagon fans, because there was a time in the state of Georgia when Clemson put out a magazine called Tiger Time, and it was all over the bookshelves in every store in Georgia. But it came out in 2003, and that's when Tommy Bowden was the coach. And when Tommy Bowden was the coach, they were consistently a 7.5 win football team. That's what they did. 7 wins one year, 8 wins one year. So the Tiger Time magazine just didn't sell in Georgia because they were no good. Well, all of a sudden, Dabo comes along and they win 2 national championships, and now people say, "Where's Tiger Time magazine at?" But 15 years ago, you didn't want that magazine. And I know people that I've known for years and years and years, and I've never, not one time, seen them wear any kind of Clemson merchandise at all, and then all of a sudden they win a national championship and they're wearing their Clemson gear. Nope. I'm sorry. That doesn't cut it. You can say you've been a fan since 1925, but if you did not wear your Clemson t-shirt until they won a national championship, you're not a fan. So those are the kind of people that Dabo would have been talking about if he was being serious. But if you actually watch the press conference and watch him say it, it was completely tongue-in-cheek. But so many people get offended by everything. If you're offended that Dabo calls you a bandwagon fan, then you're a bandwagon fan. 8 o'clock on ESPNU, we have Georgia State at Louisiana. And then 9 o'clock, Nevada at San Diego State on Fox Sports 2. And then the late games Saturday night. 10:30, Arizona State at Washington on Fox Sports 1. And UCLA at Stanford on ESPN. And Washington has to hope that they don't come out and lay an egg against Arizona State after that big win over USC last week. The last thing you want to do is get a win like that, make the AP top 5, and then come out the very next week and lay an egg against an average at best Arizona State football team. Any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. Homes for Our Troops is a publicly funded 501c nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans. Since the 2004 inception, nearly 90 cents of every dollar spent has gone directly to our program services for veterans. Visit at hfotusa.org. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. Why was the Incredible Hulk so good at gardening? He had a green thumb. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.